So, I think it's about time in this video to talk about my uh, sexual, nature. And I guess it just feels good to be able to talk about it. So, if you're looking at this now, you probably noticed that the video is something with Multisould in it. Well, so ever since I was a child, I thought to myself, with the most beautiful woman seen, even as a child, wherever that was, I always looked at the women, and I thought to myself, in my developing nature, I thought, I'd rather have been that. I'd rather have been a mom. I'd rather have been a chick. And so, as the years go on, as I discover the stuff with the P word, if they want to call it that, the addiction with the P word is that, like I always sit there and look at it in the sense of I always wanted to be a woman. So whenever I watch that stuff, I think of it from the woman's perspective, and I look to that because that's just always been my sexual nature, to have looked at the woman and imagine what it would have been like to have been that. And you don't have to tell me the whole anatomy of the whole female anatomy and be like, well, are you sure you still want it? Well, yeah, I'm sure my sexual desire still wants that. So this is my own struggle, because it's such, and I call it multi-souled, and I've never, I'm never want to transition. I don't want to take estranol or anything like that, but like, yeah. So it's hard, because then when I'm looking at this stuff, and then there's all these guides on quitting, but everybody at the end of the day is not usually this. They're not, my sexuality. I've never found anybody with the exact sexuality. I don't identify as LGBT, whatever. But I've never met anybody else with the exact kind of sexual nature that I have for this stuff. So, where I was going was that, like, I can't be pursued, at least in my own mind, and maybe some in my own ego, I can't be pursued to want a girlfriend. I can't be pursued to want a partner, even a boyfriend or anything like that, because I don't want that. I just want, as of course, a sexual desire. I want it like that, and I'm in this human lifetime as a man for a reason. Obviously, as I surrendered to the fact of that, and the yeah, the fact of being a man in this lifetime, and I live with that. But I also sometimes think, in my sexual fantasies, that, oh, maybe there'll be some alien wizard shit that comes down here and just zaps me into the chick of my dreams. I don't want to get into too much detail about all the different, dreams and hopes and fantasies I have within a sexuality like this that I've had since I was a child, basically. But I have never, I have never really wanted like a relationship, an intimate girlfriend or anything like that. And maybe in middle school I might have had a few, but like I never cared for. Once I realized my sexual nature was desiring, what gets me turned on is thinking about somehow, some way, magically turning into the opposite sex. Then I don't live for that. Having a woman, I do think about having a partner that's a woman, because obviously I don't want a man, because I'm a man. And this is why I can sit there and keep saying, the old wise man once told me that you're neither gay nor straight. You're multi-souled. If you sit there and think about it like this, where you probably would be good thinking about being the opposite sex, but then you turn around and think about, having somebody. And yes, I know I just said that I don't want like a girlfriend, but I do think about a female partner. But at the end of the day, that's not, that doesn't accomplish my sexual fantasies by itself. And so, where I'm going to with this is just simply that sometimes it seems like it's a no-win situation, where it's like, I'm not gonna quit. I mean, to the fullest. It's not as bad as some guys, but like, I'm not gonna quit. I'm not gonna quit desiring my sexual nature and not desires and whatnot. Like I couldn't. No matter what it is, no matter what I'm supposed to be, I couldn't do that because I'd probably end up being another Herf Applewhite after everything I've had to experience on the inside. So I seem to live day to day life, at some point in the day, or at least within 2 or 3 days, letting it rip. And, I'm not going to sit here and be like, it is what it is, but it is what it is. And I just, it's my sexuality, and I've always lived with that. And it's hard watching influential stuff that's like, quit today, quit today, quit today, and get a girlfriend. And it's like, thanks, but you obviously don't understand me. Under- Understandably, you don't understand me. And it's always just been this difficult path with that. And again, that goes with being, multi-souled and whatnot. It's a difficult path to have to go with that. And on top of, I don't know if you've ever looked at any of my other videos, my book about, like my entire experience inside. There's a lot of stuff that I refer to as, obviously there is some kind of divine existence that, in some way, shape, or form could make you live a life, in the opposite sex while still consciously being. And so I always saw that and hoped for it, but it wasn't. At the end of the day, that's not the deep dark stuff that turns me on late at night, you know. But yeah, it's a long road when it comes to sexual desires. It is, and I think some people have it easier than others, but some people are more pursued to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner, and that's just not as much in my bucket list and what I see as my path as it is for other people. And so I still live my day to day life, having to think about it at some point in time and wanting it. And I want it real bad. I want to go from a poor little po white boy to a fucking big Hispanic mama or something like that. But yeah, that's just everything at the end of it all, man. And your sexual nature is something you can't run and hide from, and people do, but like it's something sure didn't run and hide from because I wanted it, And it's hard because I'm just another kind of dude, To everybody else, I don't sit there and go off and tell people about this. I don't. I work out 4 or 5 days a week usually, and I don't I don't struggle with that either. And it just builds up something inside where like I can go for being a man because I am at the end of the day, but deep down inside my sexuality has always wanted to just suddenly become or experience life in the opposite sex since I was a child. I was just always been fascinated with hoping for that, and like and I don't care who's watching this, but like everything in my experience, said that there is something out there of many different sides of things that can do it. I don't know how to make it happen, but there's things out there in this universe that can make your sexual nature, your sexual desires in some way or another happen. But yeah, it's life, and it's wonderful as you surrender to your sexual nature. But yeah, that's me, and I'm not like most guys. So yeah.